Hi, Anti Society. Welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. Today we are checking out Mushi-shi episode 9. And I feel like the last episode was so beautiful. I think it was such a beautiful depiction of like grief and loss and how does one move on when you're stuck in this weird liminal space that comes with a sudden loss of somebody that you care about deeply. And it just makes me really curious about what we're going to continue to get. Like the more episodes I get into this series, the more like nuanced that my thoughts are of like the series and Mushi and like the world and everything. This one is called The Heavy Seed. I have no idea what that means, but I'm sure I will get some context for that once we get into the episode. But I'm excited to see what we're going to be dealing with. In 3, 2, 1, go. Ooh, we're not starting with the opener. Seeing the rice after with the like worm snake things for the Mushi from like last episode makes me a little uncomfy. Should I be uncomfy? Oh, maybe I should have been worried about the rice. That's unsettling. On like the hard palate? Ugh. I don't like that. Is that what the seed is, maybe? Interesting that we didn't have started with the opener. Usually we do that right out the gate. So, again, always just going on slightly different paths than I thought we were when it comes to the series. Every time I'm like, I think I know what's going on. We deviate, and I'm like, oh wait, I don't know what's going on. Which I like. I appreciate that. But I feel like after the ocean of like snake worm mushi, immediately seeing that rice, I was like, I don't trust it. And I feel like that was probably intentional. I still think this is such a strange opener to the show. Like, it has the same vibe that I have from like the opener for like Ergo Proxy. I'm just like, why this song choice? Why these visual choices? Okay. Bear heavy fruits, heavy seed. Okay, so we are dealing with rice then. Got the rice fields. He's always like, do you have food? Well, that's just gonna intrigue him. Like we had in the last like couple of episodes where it's like almost this obsession. Like he can't no piece of information and then just like leave it. Cursed harvest. People disappear? I love the voice acting for Ginko. He always sounds like slightly bored. Almost a little condescending. Or a curse, depending on who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. Sacrifice. So contrary. It's true though, like would your ancestors want to sacrifice? And if so, maybe you should be messing around with those ancestors. Divine Fang. So harvest. I find it so interesting how many of these are like built into like actual like belief systems, right? Like I can understand why people would be like, "Oh, this strange thing happened, and then we had really good crops. Those two things must be connected," right? Like I can understand why someone would make like, is it a fallacy? Yes, but I can understand why they would make that connection. Interesting. Something like Mushi? Of course you would. Seems like someone who has a little idea of what's going on, right? And like, even though I'm like, maybe we don't sacrifice people to our ancestors, but also if someone like already dies as a result of this like strange thing happening, I can understand why you'd be like, oh, it was like necessary for this miracle to happen. I also think it's interesting to have someone whose job is like chief mourner. Ooh, it seems like he knew what a Mushi-shi was. Seemed very troubled. I mean, I guess if it is his mother that's slotted to die, I can guess I don't understand why he would be upset. Really? That's not the same thing. Yeah, it was like saying like, oh, people's faith is what's keeping them going. I don't believe that. I don't think you believe that. That was too much of a reaction in your eyes to not know something that's going on. Interesting to have someone who also is like knows a bunch of stuff and is also in this like superstitious town. But like I guess if he's in charge of festivals and things, right? Like if he is kind of in charge of the more like supernatural side of things, he would. Well, that seems like something we should not have a power to. Resurrection? Yeah. They always try to make exceptions, right? Mm-hmm. Almost like a miracle. When you find it. Seems very confident in that will happen. Is that what we're doing? Because it seems like that's what we're doing. A sin is a strong word to use. Yeah. And I don't know, have the most polished knowledge of religious beliefs, but I'm fairly certain murder is a sin. Or at least it should be. I don't know, this feels like a trolley problem. Mm-hmm. Like I was saying, like it seems like we shouldn't have access to something like resurrection, immortality, and like exceptions because that's gonna mess up balance, right? That's gonna be too much power for a person to have. Yeah, it's not exactly sacred if you're messing with like abominations. Mm-hmm. Is it a what if? Because you seemed a little freaked out by a Mushi-shi being there, and you seemed like you really wanted him to get out of here. Poetic, but also ominous. For now. Will it be helping though? I know, is it good to be like, let me destroy your belief system? It's a difficult line to walk though, right? Yeah, but they have to uproot their whole life to do that. Which I get like Ginko not having a full understanding of because he's a traveler, right? He doesn't feel a connection to one place. Crazy rumors. Or the truth. Again, like, is it better to lie to people or to tell them the truth? Let them believe, have faith, or not? Or is he dabbling with something he shouldn't be besides the seed? Seems like he is. Poison? No, it's a whole balance thing. So many like off-kilter angles in this episode too. Prevent confusion. Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah, I'm like, was that who we saw at the beginning? Because like I'm assuming you don't get to choose who ends up dying, right? Mm-hmm. Oof. Heavy line. Choosing yourself? How do you choose that it's yourself, though? So interesting, like the off-angle shots, but it seems to be like rocking back and forth. It's a heavy concept, but like I was thinking, even this rocking back and forth of the shots is like this back and forth of like what is right, what is just, what is moral, right? Like, do you save a whole village of people from starving at the cost of one life, which is still like Ginko said, that's still like murder, right? Ooh, jeez. I don't like that we're laughing. And like again, how do you choose if someone wants to sacrifice their life, right, for the sake of their village? Like Ginko's run into that problem before of like, do I make someone a mushi or do I like allow this person to sacrifice their life to like feed everybody? Interesting too that they say cursed, like they don't say it was blessed. Like they understand that there's something wrong because it like results in death, right? I hate it. Getting rid of it for good. Well, that's ominous. Oh, are we going to do the resurrection thing that we hinted at before? That is like taboo? Yeah. You'll know. I'll know. Seems like a really bad idea. Dang. Like, again, crime. Before it was like accusatory of, hey, you're committing a crime. And now it's Ginko being like, this is a crime I'm willing to commit. So you're gonna be like a nature's mushi or spirit or something? Entity? To watch over the land? Became legend? Oh, I literally called it. I was like, legend. They're like, a legend was born. I'm like, oh. So he just like studies farming? It's like oddly endearing. Again, such an interesting episode and like in a much different way than I've seen in this series. But interesting to bring into like moral ambiguity because we had a little bit of that. Like I was saying, like Ginko's already had a moment where he said, did I do the right thing by making this person Mushi? Did I do the right thing by interfering with someone? Even going back through some of the other episodes of like the dewdrop on like the flowers, and the girl was like, I don't want to go back to normal. I want to go back to this way of like cycling through life in the course of 24 hours. How do you make decisions for someone else and what is morally right? And having someone who's, I understand that I'm making a sacrifice, but it is for a greater number of people. And isn't that justified? Like it would be a sin to not save a bunch of people if you had the power to, even if it meant sacrificing someone. And I think that's such a strong language or like wording for that. And then the nuances they go into that further of, okay, can we choose who that sacrifice is? If someone decides to sacrifice their own life for the sake of a bunch of people, can you interfere? Should you interfere? The ambiguity of being a Mushi-shi, of like, how much do you interfere and what is your actual job? I think like Ginko's job most of the time is to restore balance and to keep nature working the way that it's supposed to. So when people mess with Mushi, he's, hey, don't do that. I've never seen him like more angry than when we had the island with the like flowers and the dewdrops and whatever, and it was like basically using Mushi in a way that they weren't supposed to be and manipulating them. And that's when we saw like a huge emotional response from Ginko of, what do you think you're doing, right? And other moments where, you know, with the rainbow, where those are like natural forces, Mushi, there's nothing I can do about that. So we've seen lots of instances of him, part of the reason he gets involved is to restore that equilibrium that is naturally between the human world or like the living world and like Mushi and all of that. And then we have something like this where we broke some rules, right? Like the whole rule of, hey, you're not supposed to grant immortality or mess with like immortality or resurrection. And he's like, it's a crime I'm willing to commit. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like that's going to come back, right? There's a reason that we don't do that. There's a reason that's forbidden. And I feel like him being like, no, well, no. And I'm like, there's like at least 3 people who know, right? There's what? Sane and then Saichi, right? the guy who's like immortal now, and then Ginko. And I'm like, I feel like maybe since it's become a legend that there's like an immortal man who lives around this rice field, maybe someone's gonna have some thoughts about that. Like maybe some Mushi-shi are gonna be like, it's weird, strange. Or people who are just like interested in like Mushi or whatever are gonna be like, that's interesting. What's that about? Like, I feel like it's gonna wrap around again at some point, and we're gonna have to explain that one, which does make me a little on edge. But again, just interesting to go into the, again, like the moral ambiguity of what is actually right in that circumstance. And if you have the power to save a bunch of people, even if there is a price to it, how do you stand back and not do anything? It sends me all the way back to the episode where we had the man who thought he was having the prophetic dreams. And it's like, how do you know about something that's going to happen and then not interfere? It's an interesting conundrum to bring into this, but it definitely makes me worried to see what is going to happen with Ginko going forward. I know this is like more of an episodic series, but I still feel like that probably that's going to come back at some point, even if it's just like him struggling with that decision. But I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this playlist to go into my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so you don't miss the next time I post a Mushi-shi reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.